I remember
Yeah.
having a friend someone I was talking to once, and they were like, "Aren't you a therapist?" And I was like, "Yeah, and I'm not at work today.
Yeah. It's my day off.
I don't care today."
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Oh.
This is the After Dinner Mint, a podcast of stories I tell you at dinner. Think of the mint as the stories you tell after you've been kicked out of the restaurant, holding a mint, standing in the street, telling more honest stories with your friends than you did at the table. It's not a sermon. It's not advice. It's not self-help. We're processing what we're learning about faith and life, honestly, in community, to encourage you to do that with your God and your community.
Hi guys, it's Rachel. Welcome back to the season 2 of the After Dinner Mint podcast. I'm here today with Bec and Khaiah Thomson. If you guys could introduce yourselves. Khaiah, you go first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Khaiah. I'm one of the writers for Stories I'd Tell You at Dinner. I work as a social worker and I also write young adult books in my spare time.
Bec?
hi, I'm Bec. I'm the founder of Stories I Tell You at Dinner, an online magazine that brings Christian women in WA together through honest stories. I'm a wife to Zach. I'm a mum of 3 little boys and have trained as a clin psych, worked in child protection, trauma, prisons, hospitals, private practice, all the fun places.
And you've met me before, but I'm Rachel. I'm a wife and a mum and a emergency room nurse. So today's topic we got from our end of year survey, and it's a doozy. How to retain your faith while being a first responder, i.e. frontline mental health, child protection, so on and so forth. When the workplace culture demands dissonance from Christian values, i.e. black humour, seeing Christians as perpetrators of abuse, etc. I personally and others I know in frontline work struggle to reconcile their core values and faith with what they see in the world. Bec interviewed Khaiah on season 1 of the podcast, which we will link in the show notes, where they touched on some of the theological difficulties in working in social work, child protection spaces. So we thought it would be fun to bring her back. Fun is probably a strong word, but, fun. To bring her back to cover it in more depth. So in this chat, we'll deep dive into some of the temptations we face working in frontline mental health and the things the cultures demand of us, as well as what has helped us reconcile our faith with what we see in the world. Big one. So, question 1. To help the audience understand where we are coming from, where are some of the places you've worked and what have been some of the temptations you've faced in frontline mental health? Is there anything that makes you look back and cringe at what you've said or did? I'm going to throw it to Khaiah first because you're the guest.
Okay, so I have worked as a social worker for, since 2010, so nearly 16 years.
Yeah.
I've worked in community and inpatient mental health, child protection, although I didn't last very long in that role, disabilities, and now in an acute hospital setting. So I did my last prac at uni doing mental health, and I moved straight into community mental health. So I was very young, very green, had some big ideals and plenty of cringe moments. Some of the biggest temptations, I'd have to say, working in mental health and health. Biggest one for me is probably detachment, like wanting to separate myself from, from patients.
Yeah.
Yeah, which really goes against what I do as a social worker. Part of the role is, putting yourself in people's shoes, trying to have an understanding of their situation and helping to problem solve things within that and to provide that emotional support as well. So I think when you're in a very high stress environment, it's very tempting to detach, and whether it's from, you're bordering on burnout, whether it's protecting yourself from burnout. I know that's something that I have to be mindful of, probably on a daily basis, is making sure that I'm not doing that.
What about you, Bec? Oh, sorry, no, keep going.
Not yet. Any comments on that?
Yeah, comments, concerns.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't empathize at all. No.
Yeah.
Nah, I get it. I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the bio, so probably most of my early career was like forensic settings. And I think the temptation there is probably like, you know, like, yeah, like you said, kind of either despairing over things are so broken, you know, some things are really evil. And then like kind of sometimes you're like, I can't even tolerate this. Like, you know, this is just detached. Like, you know, I'm either like, yep, we're taking it all on, or we're like detaching. But I also think like it's easy to look at people and just be like, yeah, well, what you did was dumb. Like, I would never do that. Or like, you know, you need to try harder for this to be better. And I think, you know, that's probably the stuff that makes me cringe is looking back earlier and just, even if you don't say it, is that hard attitude of like, why would you even do that? Like, that's just, you know what I mean? Like, why are you even here? Like, why are you even at this service? You know, or like, you're making my life harder by being here sometimes. You know, like, if you could just stop doing that, then we wouldn't have to see you again, and you wouldn't have to be in prison again, or we wouldn't have to be at your door. But, like, that's not, and I think Rach and I probably talked about this the other week, but yeah, I think that can be a temptation as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think, I know for me, when you meet a lot of people and there's very similar patterns of behavior, it's very easy to put people in one basket. So, yeah. So like you said, I think, I know for myself, I really have to, it is something I pray about in the morning when I go to work, that I will see each person, you know, as God sees them. And and just love others, whether that's colleagues, whether that's people I'm working with, whether that's my own kids who are driving me up the wall. And what's another temptation? Probably the idea that burnout is a personal failure or a weakness. And
Only the weak people burn out. You're like,
that's
I'm my
right.
capacity.
Yeah. So pushing yourself that bit too far. I know I've done it before. I'm getting better at it now for sure. But in the early years, I was terrible with it. Just pushing yourself that bit further, and really not focusing on, or not seeing that, you're not okay and you're not coping, and that maybe you do need to take a break, take a holiday, actually work within your hours, or,
What?
put in some boundaries.
Boundaries? Those are for things for other people.
Yeah. I think a big thing particularly in ED nursing, obviously you guys deal a bit more, I feel like we are always dealing with acute crisis. And often, in nursing in particular, it's about symptom management, not, if someone's come in and they're off their tree and they're not safe, we have to hold them down and sedate them. And so it's just about getting things done. And so it's really easy to stop seeing that person as a person. They're a task. They're very difficult to manage. They're a danger, which is it's initially very confronting. And then, like, I actually had new grads, I think last year, and they were really like shocked at the first restraint and sedation. And I was like, oh, I forgot how shocking this is. Forgot how like distressing it is to see someone be like restrained against their will, because I'm so used to it. And I think often because people's mental health is so poor, that they are often a revolving door. They come back in with the same presentations or the same things, and then the help they receive is either they don't engage with the help, or the help they receive is not enough. And so then it becomes disheartening, but then it's just like, oh, well, you are really inconveniencing me, because I know you're going to stay here. You're going to be here for 5 days, go to a bed, then get released, and then come back. And I have to manage you this whole time. And that the temptation, well, I mean, I say temptation like I don't often give into it, but it's very difficult to see someone as a person rather than just, oh my gosh, you are so much work for me, and you are affecting all these other people, and you cannot even see that. And it's really hard to see someone as less than that, as more than that in the acute setting. Which sounds, I think, is quite hard for people who have not seen it, to thinking, oh my gosh, that's so awful that you don't think of people, you think of people that way. But it's a reality of the setting. I think cringy things I've done early on would be, I think some people are quite manipulative, and I definitely have been hoodwinked by over engaging with someone, like someone with mental health problems, and they've come in and they've manipulated me, not to do anything terrible, but I've like sort of engaged with them and then afterwards gone, okay, none of that was true, or that was all, yeah, they were trying to get something out of me that, yeah. And I thought, oh, that was kind of an experience thing that you sort of get better at dealing with.
I've definitely been there.
Yes. Yes. But then also, you know, that's also a process of their issues and their disease processes as well. So I've come to expect those things. But I think, yeah, it's very easy to see people as an inconvenience or as a task and not as, you know, made in God's image and a product of their environment and all the things that have happened in their life.
Yeah, all the stuff you can't see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, what has helped you reconcile your faith with what you see in the world? Are there any specific gospel truths that you can think of that have helped you in the setting that you work?
So I think the thing that really helped for me was kind of really being like, you know, God sees everything. Like, God knows. So, like, kind of, yeah, like, he sees every sin, he sees everything that has happened, like, he is going to deal with everything perfectly. So, like, even if this kid, like, is never going to take the stand for something that happened, even if, like, you know, the way our justice system works, you know, and the way that, like, neuroscience works, like, God sees, God knows, he's going to deal with it perfectly. But also, I was like, that means that he also sees my heart. So I'm like, okay, yep, like, I'm saved by grace. Anyone can be saved by grace. It's like, it's me, it's them. It's not like I, like, earn my way in here because I'm, like, a really wicked clean psych and, you know, like, I got some gold stars. Like, you know, so I think he also sees my heart and he sees that, like, oh, well, I fail to love my neighbor. Like, I'm not particularly kind. I'm judgmental, you know, like, all of those kind of things. I think that really helped. And but it just kind of gave a name for, like, some stuff just can't be fixed by, like, therapy alone. You're like, some stuff is just evil and it's okay to name it as that. Whereas I think modern mental health will just say, like, you did that because you're unwell. You're like, well, some people did that because they like doing bad things.
Yeah, for sure.
And they like to hurt people. And I think for me, in the end, I was like, actually, there is nothing else that kind of could explain some of the stuff that you would see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a similar vein, I remember when I was working in child protection, I think, it might have been before that, I did a prac in child protection. And I'd read through some pretty, like, horrific cases where these kids had just been through most shocking childhood. And I remember going home, so I was living at home at the time, and, like, asking my dad, because, you know, he's very wise and has a lot of knowledge, just like, why did God promise to never flood the earth again? Like, considering how much evil's in the world.
Yeah, I think we're due for a flood.
Yeah. And I think I also made the statement that I don't think I want children, like, in this world. And he couldn't really give me an answer. He kind of said, you know, I remember thinking the same things. It's something I had to pray through. But then I think it was either that night or sometime soon after, I just decided or had the urge to read through Job of all the books. And so I read through the whole book of Job from beginning to end. And it's a pretty brutal, like, Job's life was pretty brutal. He had everything, went from having everything to having nothing.
Yeah.
And then these friends of his who pretty much have kept trying to say all the way through that you must have done something wrong. You've done something wrong to deserve this. What have you done? And then at the end, when Job himself questions why these things have happened, and God says, who are you to question me? Like, where were you when I created the world? And so I think that there's some things we're just never going to have answers for.
Yeah.
Like, and it was actually quite reassuring for me. I think because I'm someone who I like to have answers. I like to deep dive into things. I want to find out the nitty gritty and, try and work things out for myself. But it was reassuring to know that I don't need to know these things. I don't need to know why they happen. But like you said, Beck, in the end, God is in control and everything goes according to his plan. So, that's always stuck with me, that some things we'll just never understand. Even if we knew, we probably wouldn't understand them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the big, like, I think it's what you said, Beck, as well, like the big picture of it all is sometimes helpful, because I know people often ask me, oh, you know, what's like the most common like things that you get in ED and stuff. And obviously it's a lot of substance abuse, and like a lot of people have genuine mental health issues, but it's, you know, the chicken or the egg. And often people go, oh, you know, drugs and alcohol and all these things. And I think what's helpful is people kind of go, oh, you know, what things do we need to do? Like, do we need more, you know, a mental health ED so people can go there, or more detox? And it's like, what we need is, like, if you take it all the way back to like the family unit and society in general, is you're like, people actually need Jesus, because it's like these people, you know, this person who's addicted to meth potentially was born to a 14-year-old mum who was in a family who had zero coping skills, and she also was an addict. So then this person has been raised in an environment that has, you know, they have been taught no coping skills. They've probably had a lot of traumatic things happen. And then they're now self-medicating with drugs and alcohol as well. And then also potentially there's this whole thing where you go back and back and back. What do we need to do to deal with it? You think, well, essentially, that's what people need. Like, people love to put new services in place, and not that that's something that we can obviously do for everyone, but sometimes it's easier, I find, to think of the big picture of like, okay, it's a world issue, it's a whole picture issue. It's not just this person and the things in their life,
because the system doesn't know what to do with someone who had a really good upbringing, but then is like, you know, off their face on meth and carrying around a machete and stabbing people, and they're like, but you don't have any of those like risk factors.
Yeah.
Like, how do we treat you? What do we do with you?
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
the other end of that is that and not in an unkind way, but I was like, those people can give me a lot of like a springboard for gratitude in my own life. Of, you know, we all think about, you know, we all think about the things your parents did and decisions they made or whatever, and you go, you know what? I've had a great family, and there's a lot of amazing things in my life that, you know, the person I am today is because of all these things, and I can be grateful for those things. And not that you want to use someone else's life as inspiration because your life is better, but gratitude is the antidote to a lot of the feelings that we have. And so sometimes the perspective of that I find helpful to go, okay, what can I be grateful for instead of being judgmental?
Yeah. And I mean, something that like similarly I noticed, like, so, you know, it's easy to be like, I would never do the thing that you're doing. Like, I would never do that, right?
never do that.
And I would never do that because I'm super great.
Exactly.
But I remember doing treatment assessments, and it's really interesting because you talk to people as they come into prison, and you're like, you just meet them once, and you're like, okay, talk to me about like what was going on in your life, like what was happening. Then, you know, you kind of review the incident, like, okay, so like this is your offense, like what's your account of it, blah blah. And you're working out like what program to put people on. But what's so interesting, right? Because the programs that they go into really look at like their thinking. So the whole model is like, you change what you think, you can change what you do. But you're drilling down, and what's so interesting is the thoughts are the same. And although what people get into, you're like, oh, I wouldn't do that thing. But you're like, the way that you're thinking actually is the same way that I think about stuff that I'm not supposed to do. You're like, that's a stupid rule. I don't need to do that. Like, you know, I'm the exception to the rule. They basically fall into like, I'm the exception. I had a special reason.
Yeah.
Like, I really needed it. No one's going to find out. I deserve it. Like, all of that stuff, it's the same.
The heart is deceitful.
So you think, the heart, actually, you're like, if I continued down that path, you're like, yeah, I can see how those things would grow and grow and grow. Yeah. And you're like you're saying, but for the grace of God, there go I. Like, I could, in a different situation, I could be you. I don't know.
And I think
Yeah.
that has also given, I find people, particularly other Christians, are a lot happier to share honestly their sin and their things to me, because I was like, I am not much shocks me. And like the sin, my own sin and the sin of others, it's like people are capable of a lot of things, but it has made people, I find, a lot more transparent with me, because they've heard me speak about things and they're like, oh, okay, like she, the things we've all seen in these things, I feel like the desensitization of it means people are often more comfortable to be honest with me about their own struggles and their own sins, which is like, great. That's great that people feel that way, because I don't mind. And whereas I know some people that grew up in a Christian home, and now work at a Christian workplace, and some, like my sister, for example, she's literally got married really young, is a teacher, works at a Christian school, and some of the things I tell her at work, she's like, she can't reconcile it anywhere because she's never seen it, which is in a lot of ways a blessing for her, but it's definitely afforded me opportunities because people feel more comfortable to disclose things or to share. Have you guys found that?
Yeah, I remember working out pretty early on that work talk wasn't appropriate for the dinner table.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
For that very reason, you try to offload a bit, just a bit,
Yeah.
and that just seemed to traumatize everyone around you. So
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Although thankfully, for me, I have sisters. Like one is an ED nurse, a pharmacist. So I've got a niece who's a nurse as well. So we can kind of offload to each other, which is nice.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent.
Particularly other Christians as well, though, because I think, that's the question as well, isn't it? Of like, in a Christian context, because it's easy to talk to your colleagues, but often that divulges into whinging. So have you guys found, like, do you have any Christian colleagues as social workers, Khaiah?
Yeah, I've actually very thankful in the current role I'm in. I've got a few colleagues who are Christian, so
Wow.
I'm very prone to dark humour.
Same.
Which goes with the role, right? Especially after you've worked in it a while.
I'm super earnest.
What do you mean?
Sometimes it's good to sit with some of my colleagues and go, is this okay, guys? Have I gone too far? Like, what? Like,
I've never
which
asked
probably
that.
quite often I do go too far. But anyway.
Yeah, samesies.
I remember having a friend someone I was talking to once, and they were like, "Aren't you a therapist?" And I was like, "Yeah, and I'm not at work today.
It's my day off.
I don't care today."
Exactly. And sometimes people who are mentally unwell do very funny things too.
That's true.
Have you guys, this is going not off topic, but it's not a question that we've got. Have you guys wrestled with as a Christian and God's design of the mind and mental health, and thinking of like how it's such a, I like people who are physically sick. It's easier to deal with.
Yeah.
And because it's often a very ongoing, an ongoing thing, obviously it's often a lifelong struggle. I don't know where I'm going with that, but discuss. Because like I say, I only deal with acute mental health crises. I don't deal with ongoing treatment and actual, and also I almost never see anyone become well. And that's quite depressing.
Yeah. I didn't get to see that until I went to private practice.
Yeah, okay. Was it encouraging?
And it was
okay.
It was great encouraging, and I was like, "Hey man, like how long do you think you're going to come? Like, I mean, like, when do you reckon you'd need to stop coming? Because I think you're doing really well." Or they come to see you from their GP, and you're like, "You realize there was a problem, and then you asked for help and you went to see someone. You're going to be fine. You're doing really well."
That's all the steps.
I know. Compared to mandated services, you're like, "This is amazing."
Yeah.
Yeah, so that really did help in some weird ways.
Yeah.
Sorry, you asked a question and I had a point, but then I got sidetracked. What was the question?
about
What did
thinking
you?
about it as a Christian, like the idea of
Yes.
mental health and
Yes, yes. So I think the thing that really blew my mind, and it's so simple that it's dumb, is like I think modern mental health be like, you're really sad, and it's kind of like it's you, and like you specifically need a therapist for like the rest of your life, and all of these things. But it's so interesting when you look at like how the brain works and how people move through like difficult things. Actually, a lot of the things that people really need in Christ and in the church, and like in a practical sense. So say like you have a diagnosis of like PTSD or like CPTSD, and one of the things is like those change beliefs about the world. So say something really bad happens to you, and then you're like, oh, I'm fundamentally alone, or I will always be alone, or nothing. Everything is meaningless. Everything is purposeless. The other ones like, oh, you can't trust people. I'm not safe. No one sees. Those are all like really common PTSD ones. But what's interesting is like, you're like, okay, theologically, like, yes, you have Christ. He sees everything. He knows everything. He's with you. You're never alone. But then you're like, you're not meant to recover on your own. You have people like in the church, in the body, you're like, the Holy Spirit will walk alongside you. The church will walk alongside you. Like therapy, you might get 10 sessions if you're lucky. But there are people that will like walk with you through all of life and be with you. And even like the act of singing, like I think it activates like whatever, it activates like the parasympathetic nervous system, and it's like that rest digest, that like calming. And you're doing it with all of these people, and like people have been doing this for thousands of years, but actually it's a really one of those things that's really calming. And you're tempted to think like, yeah, the Bible says to do it and I'll do it. Yep. Like, okay, fine. I'll sing in church. Like that's weird, but I got used to it. But as you go along, like there's so much of that beautiful design that I think Christians suffer in a way that like people who don't have faith don't have those resources.
And
this is my TED Talk.
Hope is very powerful. And I think that's kind of helpful as well to go, oh, this person is hopeless. Like this person is unwell and has a lot of other things, but they have zero hope.
But there's a proverb, isn't it? And it's like if you something about like a crushed, you know what I mean? A crushed spirit, like who can bear? They're like, if you have a broken bone, like fine, but like if you have a crushed spirit, if you don't have any hope,
I'll Google.
Like who can go on? Thank you.
Well, while she's looking for it,
go.
As you're saying, like around church community, like these days, there's not really many other places you find community.
No, that's so true.
There's nothing like
and
church.
I know work like for me trying to work practically with people when they need a bit more support. When you find out they're connected to a church, it's like, oh, there's a resource we can use. Like some people just really don't have anybody.
Yeah,
like there's
so alone.
For whatever reason that might be, and I can't imagine. Like I think after I had my second son, I had a pretty hard time mentally. Like if I didn't have my family, my friends, my husband to support me, like if I didn't have that, and if you add other social stresses on top of that, whether that's, I don't know, you're at risk of being evicted from your house, or you're surviving from paycheck to paycheck, or not quite surviving from paycheck to paycheck, then geez, I would be an absolute mess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we always, like you sort of touched on earlier, we always see people in that more acute setting in hospital where they're the most vulnerable. They're relying on the medical team or the health team, disciplinary team around them to make the best decisions for them. And a lot of the time we take that decision making out of their hands, like when they're an inpatient. Like
for sure.
It's a really vulnerable space to be in. And if you weren't doing great in the first place, put someone in on a mental health unit, and what you actually see, I don't think is always a very good picture of who that person is.
No, absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
It's here we go. Proverbs 17:22. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Is that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that's the thing is I've a very actually no, once I have seen a patient who is a bit of a frequent flyer, and she has schizophrenia, and so was often in, and then I saw her out in the community and I was like, she looked like a different person. She was like just like her face, like she looked the same as in like her body, but her face and just her demeanor, and I was like, oh, she's well. And I hardly ever get to see that. Which
That
really does
honestly
actually taint my view, because you think, oh yeah,
But it does.
Yeah.
Like, I would see people come in, like, honestly, in private practice, and you would be because I was doing, like, trauma therapy, but then people would come in and all of a sudden, like, I don't know, it was like their face was different and it was kinda, like, lit up, and they would be talking about, like, the simplest of things. They'd be like, "Oh, I got out in the garden," or I was like, "I've just been cooking this meal," but not like just, the toast to sustain me, but like, "Oh, I made a meal because I like doing it," or, "I went for a walk."
yeah.
And you're like, you would just know, you're like, "Oh, that's that point." Like, you started to recognize it. You're like, "You're gonna get well. You're getting well."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. That's
It
nice.
totally is. I was like,
Yeah.
for all of the hard things about private practice, that was a really cool thing to be like, "Oh, people actually get well." I just never got to see it before.
Yeah. Is there anything practically that you do differently these days than what you used to do or what you've done in the past? And what helps you navigate working in this area with wisdom? Do you have like mentors or books, resources, anything that have helped you along the way?
To be honest, for me, I think life experience has made a big difference.
Yeah, 100%.
Just, whether it's friends or family experiencing mental health or someone going through some other illness, and then seeing the healthcare system from the other side,
Oh, yeah.
as well as a family member or the patient, it gives you a real insight into some of the assumptions, stereotypes, and kind of things that I'm myself, have done in the past. So yeah, so I think that side of things has been very helpful for me through the years. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did. I agree. I think I just have, because I think I've been a nurse almost like I graduated 2011, so almost 15 years. Is that 6? Yeah, 15 years. Yeah, and I think I was 20. I was it, and you think about just the person that I was, and sometimes you just wisdom is a gift of age, like, and
Yeah.
it's a it's nice to have been through a few things, and then the people around me as well and stuff that we've been through will hopefully continue to provide more empathy instead of like fuel more judgment. I think I've become a lot more empathetic as you think, right, like you see a lot more of the world and you see people struggling and in crisis, and it not much surprises me now in a good way of that. Yeah, that you can hopefully try and see the person underneath things rather than just the things they do. I think the things that do help in terms of dealing with it is, like you say, Khaiah, about like dealing with burnout. And like I had my first holiday in 3 years last year, which was dumb. That was too long to not go without a holiday. And I had a month off, and it was so dumb. Well, we didn't have enough staff and they wouldn't approve my leave. And anyway, whatever.
Look, holidays are for the week.
Exactly, as is sleep. And I literally, after a month off, I was like, oh, I was way closer to burning out than I thought I was. Like, I thought I was like a bit stressed, but I was fine. And then after that, I was like, oh no. I was like, no, I was way and when I came back, I was like, I feel great. Like, I have my duck feathers back. Stuff is just rolling off. And it turns out people are not lying. You're meant to like take a break, and yeah, it's weird.
It's amazing how hindsight works.
Yeah, it's funny that, except it's now been
2020.
like 7 months since I've had another break, and I'm not having a break till July. But I do have leave booked, and a year is better than 3. So
much better.
yes.
Progress. Making progress,
Yes.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I literally, the things I wrote down were like those things. I was like, pray more. Like, I think now I'm much more inclined to just be like, I don't know, I'm just gonna pray about that. Or if someone if I had a client who was difficult or I find them really hard, I would just be very inclined to be like, I need to pray for this client more. I need to pray for them before I see them.
This is a
Sorry, I see the
slight
hand.
side note, but on topic. Do you guys ever pray within your workday? Because
Yes. all the
okay,
time.
because I don't. Because I find
Yeah.
that like I'll often get to the end of my shift and go, oh, I haven't thought about God at all. I've just done my tasks. Like I haven't, because it's a busy place and there's always something to do. And so I've often thought, I was like, oh, in the moment, I don't pray for people. But obviously, like, you guys have a bit more talky jobs than I do. In the moment, talking to someone, do you actually pray in the moment?
Yeah, I would pray at the start of my day, and in more hectic jobs, I would pray if something, if I knew I was going into a difficult meeting or I was going to do something hard. Yeah, I've got a tendency to be like, okay, I'll pray at the start of the day. I'll pray for all the people I'm going to see. But then if it was something particularly that I was like worried about, I've just been like, okay, I'm just going to pray about that. And I'll just pray real quick, even if it's just like, help me.
Help.
Yeah.
My day.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same. I think, yeah, a lot of what I do is problem solving.
Yeah.
And in the current world, we've got a housing crisis here. It's ridiculous that, I'm working with older patients who come in, the rental they've been living in for 20 years has been sold, and they cannot afford to rent another place, so they're forced to go into aged care or, circumstances like that where I'm like, I the only option is, God, please do a miracle.
Yeah.
Or at least guide me in the right direction, because there's so much, there are just so many problems I can't solve on my own, or even just as the social work department we couldn't solve. So I usually find, that's when I'll pray about it. I'm not so good at praying at the start of the day. I do ask for wisdom, usually as I'm driving to work.
Nice.
But yeah, mine is more on the spot, depending on who I'm working with and what's going on.
Nice. The other thing I was going to say, just it reminded me, is just I think the other thing that has helped is just limits as a concept. Just like, I am a limited human being. Like, I get tired, I get cranky. I just can't do everything, but trusting that God doesn't have limits. And he made them and he knows them, and they also have personal responsibility, has just lifted, I think, a lot of the burden of feeling so responsible for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any miracles, Khaiah?
I definitely have. Yeah, for sure. So I think sometimes I have a habit of thinking that it's my responsibility to solve more than I can. Within the role, just in general. I want to go in and I want to fix it. That's just my sort of mindset. Yeah, there's been a few things I've prayed about that have definitely been miracles, though, whether it's someone finding a house, whether it's, this family member coming out of the woodwork to care for the kids so we don't have to get CPFS involved, that kind of thing.
That's cool.
That's
encouraging too.
It's very, definitely.
Yeah, right.
I usually find when I do pray about the big things, there is an answer. It's not always what I expect or, but it's, I generally do get an answer of some kind. Yeah.
And I think it's also sometimes letting go of the pride of I want to solve it. I want to do the thing that that I want to finish my day and feel like I've done something productive and actually helped someone in a practical way, in a way that will actually, and then they'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You've helped me. But it doesn't always go like that. And then it's also that thing of, at the end of the day, that's, they do need a house, but they also need Christ.
Yeah.
And that's the thing of that's me going oh, but I want to do the thing that will make me feel good on the inside as well, that I've, I'm worth the thing because I was helpful. Yeah.
And it is that thing where Christianity is a really practical faith. And, you know, we are called to like love, you know, like if it's all that James, you know, like if you love people, but like you don't actually help them practically.
Well, and none of our jobs would
so-
exist if it wasn't for the church.
No, yeah, they all
True.
originally came out of that.
Mm.
But I think it's that, isn't it? You're like, it is a good thing to help people, and it is, you know, it is good to get. It's good to help people, but I think it's if you're doing it out of a sense of like identity, like if you know, if you finish your day and you feel like you haven't helped anyone, like, are you then worth anything? Like, I reckon that's a good indicator. Like,
Mm.
even if it didn't go to plan, you're like, God still loves me. Like,
He still loves them no matter how it went.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm. Yeah.
He still loves them. He still loves me. Like, you know, the sun will rise again tomorrow.
Yeah. And in the end, circling back to what you said before, Bec, like in the end, God deals with it all.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
And he sees the bigger picture.
Yeah. And the whole timeline. I often like to think about that, of like God being outside time, because it's just like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's fine. You see it. It's all right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, hopefully that was helpful to any sort of frontline workers listening, from the people that put the question in. It's a big topic, and it's an ongoing thing. Our society is not the easiest place to live in. Thanks for listening. Bye.
That's it from us, friends. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, you can sign up to our free weekly newsletter called Stories I Tell You at Dinner. So you get essays, poetry, podcast episodes, everything, photo essays straight to your inbox on Wednesdays from March through to November from Christian women in Western Australia. If you'd like that, the link is in the show notes. Thanks for listening, guys.